courses that Dr. Bonstetter is teaching. And we're taping today because if all else fails, we have to redo this to another class on Thursday. So you know how you always plan ahead? And so Joanne is helping us with the videotaping. So yeah, so we appreciate everybody trying to stay as quiet as possible. Pre-student teaching is a experience. We call it PSTE, Pre-Student Teaching Experience, that is embedded into this particular course, ED 304. Okay? And with this, if you were elementary and you are in your junior mentoring year, you have been in the classroom that you're going to do your pre-student teaching in, most likely. If you are secondary, however, you have a different placement. And after we go through some of the information, we do have envelopes up here that have the information for you. The majority of you, we already have assigned a university supervisor, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit as well. But we have 95 pre-student teachers going out, and so we're down to about 6 that don't have a supervisor yet. We'll make sure you have one, but we don't quite have we're still doing just a little bit of the shuffle to make sure that everybody is covered. In order to do pre-student teaching, you have to have your Education Minnesota liability insurance. For those of you that know that you have it, can you raise your hand? You've got that? Now that's going to be for most of the elementary because you've already been in that classroom. So this pertains primarily to the secondary majors. And if you've not been in the classroom yet this school year, you will need to purchase the liability insurance. It's what is it, $31, yes, I believe, and it's the best $31 you'll ever spend because it helps protect you in the case of some type of an accusation against you that may indeed be in error. But Education Minnesota, the student liability program, provides you that legal coverage. And you definitely want that because one accusation against you, whether it be true or as fictional as can be, can ruin your entire career. So we do have 3 of the secondary student teachers that do not have their liability coverage yet. So we're just warning you, when you get your envelope, it's going to say, stop by our office, we'll give you your placement after you bring us your liability coverage. Because we don't want any of you to get out there and be blindsided by something and not have any recourse. Okay? And we do get updates from Education Minnesota every Monday, and so we got the update today. So of the 95, 92 of you are on the list, so we just need to take care of those other 3. Your pre-student teaching is 2 5-day weeks, full days. The first week is scheduled for spring break week, which is March 11th through the 15th. And believe it or not, as much as you'd like to go on spring break somewhere nice and warm and have all kinds of fun, you will be amazed how much you do enjoy this week of pre-student teaching. We'll have kids come back later and say, I had a blast this week. I didn't miss, being off for spring break. And then the second week is tricky. And that's to put it as easily as I can. For the schools in our area, rural Southwest Minnesota, they are part of the FLY schools, the Flexible Learning Year schools. And many of them get out of school by May 17th. which means if some of you can think back to your elementary days and your high school days, how productive was that last week of school? Not very productive, right? And considering that you're trying to, in this experience, kind of get your feet wet with the teacher performance assessment, the TPA, it's a little hard to have you trying to do that and students already thinking about summer vacation. So we're leaving the second week to your discretion with the agreement between your classroom mentor and your university supervisor. And you're all going to be getting a piece of paper that looks like this. It's called the Prestudent Teaching Verification of Dates form. And when you go out the first week, you're going to talk to your classroom mentor and identify the 5 days that you're going to be there for the second 5. Okay? We'd like them to be as consecutive as possible. But we know that sometimes has to fluctuate as well. But as close to consecutive days. And the reason we ask for consecutive days is so that you can experience what it's like to introduce a lesson, to then maybe have to revisit a lesson, reteach a lesson. You know, if something bombs one day, which it bombs for every teacher, no matter how many years of experience you have to be able to go back and redo. Plus, it's kind of nice to have those consecutive days to see if by Friday you remember what you taught on Monday. Okay? And so you want that experience. And secondly, you need that experience because you need to find out now how tiring teaching can be. And going day after day after day, you're going to be exhausted. I always tell the student teachers, if you're not exhausted by the end of a teaching day, you didn't work hard enough. And there are students that come back and say, you hit the nail on the head, because it is exhausting. I've had student teachers come back and say, you know, I used to stay up till midnight, 1 o'clock. I'm in bed by 9. It's tiring, and you need to know that, because when you go into that student teaching experience, we're doing this so that you're as prepared as possible. So with this sheet, you're going to talk to your classroom mentor, figure out your days, then you're going to communicate that with your university supervisor to see if that will work into their schedule. The majority of our university supervisors are retired teachers, and they retired for a reason. They were ready to have some retirement time. So they're helping us out, but some of them have trips planned in between different things. So you need to make sure that they're in agreement. This sheet you and your classroom mentor will sign, and it just tells you at the very bottom that you need to just attach an email from your university supervisor that they too are in agreement. And you're going to return these to our office placement and licensure, it says by March 22nd, so that we know when you're going out that second 5 days.
Is there a window of time for those?
Window of time is, we're thinking May 6th through the 17th as kind of the main window. However, we do know, because May 6th it starts finals week, we do know that depending on your schedules, you might be able to move that up just a little bit, but that's the main thing that we're going for, is between May 6th and May 17th. Now, if you're not in a fly school, they're in school till the end of May and you're good to go. Some of them into the first part of June. So it's just those of you that are placed in a fly school. But we'll pass this out in a little bit. If you have any questions, we'll answer them then. The pre-student teaching experience is extremely important because it's the positive response and recommendation that we get from your pre-student teaching experience that moves you forward to student teaching. So if the response is not positive, you do not move forward to student teaching. There would be some mentorship in between time, okay? So you want to do your very, very best. There is, for those of you junior mentoring year, you got all your stuff at the beginning of the year in your packet. Secondary, you're getting it today, but there's a final pre-student teaching experience assessment, and your classroom mentor fills that out. And it covers 7 of the 12 standards of effective practice. And so they're rated on the aware, developing, competent, and proficient, the same scale that all your other assessments have been made on. And that has to come back saying that you're ready for student teaching. So it's extremely important that you put all you have into this experience.
May the student bring it to our office, or how does the evaluation get to our office?
The evaluations have been given to the classroom mentors, and we have provided the classroom mentors with prepaid envelopes. So you really should not need to be bringing. In fact, we would rather you not be the carrier of the final assessment. It's better to come, to come in the mail and stay processed, because we then will scan all of your assessments that come back in, and Joanne gets them. Because the pre-student teaching is part of this grade. And so if we just know they're always coming in the mail, then you don't accidentally lose it in the bottom of a backpack or under the front seat of the car, or any of that kind of stuff. Plus, there's privacy issues there. We'll be more than happy to give you a copy of it, and usually the mentor teacher will show it to you before they mail it to us anyway. There's nothing that we're trying to hide from you, but it is confidential material. So that's the method in which we should get it. One of the things that you will have to do, again, I keep going back to junior mentoring, you've probably already done this. You had to get permission from the parents of your students in order to videotape or save coursework, student work samples. And so for those of you that haven't done that yet, you can start working on that right away, is to create just a letter that you would send out to your students to get permission to be able to videotape them for the TPA. And for the secondary candidates, you're going to pick one class within your scheduled day. So let's say you're a chemistry teacher and you teach 3 classes. You're going to choose one of those 3 classes to do your TPA on. So you would just need to send permission slips with the ones that are in that particular class. And yes, it's probably more difficult to get permission slips back from secondary students than it is elementary students. So that might be somewhat of a challenge. But I'm going to let Faye go here for a little bit, and then we'll circle back around.
All right. I want to talk to you a little bit about when you get to your classroom. The elementary people have already established that relationship with the school and the principals and the students. But it's very important that when you go to the classroom, if you haven't been there before, that the first thing you do is stop in the office and make an arrangement to meet the principal and the secretary, and they may want to have you wear visitor's pass. So that would be your first step, is when you get to the school, to check in and to make sure that you are known as a visitor that is acceptable to be in the building. You want to make sure that when you're in the building and you're working in the classroom, that you're perceived as a professional and that you are looked at as a potential teacher. And I know we've talked to you about this in your other field experiences as well, but this is your you're kind of like in a fishbowl right now. This is your first window of what people might perceive you as when they look at a professional. Do you look like a teacher? And so you want to be cooperative, you want to wear a smile, you want to be energetic, you don't want to be the one in the back of the room that's waiting for them to pull you out and say, come, would you like to help, would you like to teach? You want to have a little bit of initiative. You want to get to know that classroom teacher, find out why did they go into teaching maybe, what are some of their strengths and weaknesses, what do they do after hours, but get to know the teacher as well, because I think that helps make your student teaching experience even better when you develop that relationship. So think about your dispositions, because part of being a teacher is being in front of people, meeting people, and being personable. So you have to think about those type of traits that you have. You also want to make sure that when you enter the building, your cell phone is turned off and put in your backpack or in your car or somewhere. It should not be texting, or it should not be ringing or used at all during the school day, unless you have when you have noon break or something like that. I've gotten calls from principals that have been disturbed about the fact that we're using our cell phones, and that's just not allowed. So make sure that you make a mental note. They're off. That's hard to do that because you're used to checking them all the time. That's our main mode of communication, but it cannot be in the classroom. And then think about your dress. When you come to school, you need to look professional, so you need to have an appropriate dress on. We can't have hooded sweatshirts. We can't have pictures on the front of our t-shirts. We can't wear caps. We have to dress modestly. So if you're raising your hand to point to something on the smart board or to write on a board, that your top stays down, it doesn't come up. If you're a female, when you bend over, you don't want to have a low top. You want to have something that's modest, because you're going to be talking to students, bending over their desks. If you're in elementary, you may be sitting on the floor. Make sure, guys, that your pants aren't going to slide down. Everything should be very modest. So if a parent would walk in the room, the principal would walk in the room, and they see you teaching, they're going to be impressed and say, boy, this SMSU student's doing a really good job. I'm impressed that they're going into teaching, and they'll probably keep their eye on you if they need to have an opening coming up because you look professional. If you don't, that's going to be a really big red flag. And I really do not like getting phone calls from principals that tell me they are not approving of an SMSU student's dress. And that does happen. And sometimes they've not allowed them back in the building. So make sure that you're aware of that. Other things that I've talked to you about in the past, make sure that if you have excessive piercings, that they are removed. That's a request by principals. If you have tattoos, they need to be covered. So you need to wear a shirt or something that will cover them. So dress for success. I know that people will be looking for you to be a professional. Another thing I want you to remember is that your university supervisor will be contacting you, will be contacting your mentor teacher, and they will be talking to you and establishing that relationship about some of the things that you will be doing during pre-student teaching. So watch for that, probably an email, maybe a phone call, and you will begin a dialogue between you and your university supervisor. They will share with you some of the expectations, and they will also talk to you about the need to communicate with them daily. We will talk to them about how do you want us to do that. During that first week in March, they will not visit you, but they will want to know what you're doing each day. So you will find out, how do you want me to email you? When do you want me to email you? What do you want me to share with you? And they will respond back to you. So if you have any questions or concerns, they will respond back. And you will also want to share with your university supervisor a visitor's pass, because they will need to look at your TPA. So keep that in mind, that unless they get a visitor's pass, they cannot do that. Anybody have any questions about that part of it? if you have not contacted Mason.
No. What is the TPA?
Oh, we will be getting on to that.
Okay.
Right?
The Teacher Performance Assessment.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Just a couple of things to add to what they said. The supervisor packets will probably be mailed out tomorrow. So the supervisors don't have your names and email yet, but they should start receiving them Wednesday and Thursday, so that I would expect you to hear from them by Friday at the latest would be my guess. Yes?
If you do have a fly school, and so like the second week wouldn't be very productive, could you have your mentor teacher come in and watch you the first week? Like, could you swap it?
They need to see your TPA unit.
They do need to see the TPA, and the original plan was for the TPA to be done the second week, but depending on your situation, for those that are in their junior mentoring, you've been in that room all year long, so you might be videotaped, you could probably videotape sooner. For the secondary people, that would be a little quick to do the videotaping and that type of thing for the TPA.
And is that videotaping we've already done, or you do a new one during these weeks?
You should be doing.
Because I know I've done 2 already, so I used
Okay.
one of those, right?
You're elementary, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
You have a math.
a math or a literacy, and so you've done it for one of those.
For both of them already now.
For both of them. I don't know the answer to that question. I do know that Dr. Bonstetter has mentioned before that some of the work that you've done in past methods courses could possibly work. So that, I think, is what you're asking, right?
Yeah.
It was done in another methods course, a lab placement from a methods course, correct?
Yep, and we were told like last semester you choose one of those to use for your TPA. So then my question was, could I have my mentor teacher come in and watch me the first week if my school is a fly week and they're going to be like done and not doing anything in school?
So you mean your university supervisor
Yes,
is what you're asking. You could certainly inquire
If it
with
works
them
for
if it works for them. They've all been told up front when we hired them that the first week was email communication, but we have 95 students going out, and they'll be completed in 95 different ways. I can guarantee it.
Okay.
So we just kind of the basic guidelines. Yes.
So what is the TPA unit, and is that the first week that we do it, or the second week? Or have we already done that since we already did one for math and for reading?
The TPA, let me just jump ahead because Mason had that question as well. The TPA is the Teacher Performance Assessment, and it is something that has been instituted by the Minnesota Department of Ed and the Board of Teaching as a method of preparing our future educators. And as part of student teaching, you have to do that and meet the requirements with the Board of Teaching and the Minnesota Department of Ed. So for your benefit, the education faculty have added the TPA to the pre-student teaching experience just so you can see what it's like and you can learn from it, and then when you are out there for student teaching, it'll just be that much more, you'll be that much more efficient in terms of completion. And basically what it is a 3 to 5 day unit that you will create, and that's where Dr. Bonstetter in the past has made a comment in regards to if you've written a unit in the past and it's been taught, that possibly that could be used as your TPA. But there is a special workbook online. How many of you have gone on to the Ed TPA website and found the, I hate to call it a workbook, but that's what they call it, with your content that you want your licensure in?
They are all in the content area
Okay,
of this class.
okay. So
they
they've
need to look
had,
there.
so they've had it. So Mason, what is your licensure area? Isn't it, is it history?
Social science.
Social sciences. So there is a social science or history workbook that walks you through the TPA and what, you know, what is required of it. As you complete that, you'll then upload it into your live text. And Dr. Bonstetter should have made that arrangement with you as to how to go about doing that. And it's that Faye was mentioning, you need a pass, visitor's pass for your university supervisor. Because each supervisor has been asked to unofficially reflect upon and score, very good, and score your efforts on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the best. And I say unofficial because they have not received the official training from the Pearson Group to be the official scorers. And when it comes to your student teaching one, you'll have an official score. But right now, the TPA for pre-student teaching is unofficial, but they'll be able to give you some great feedback. And to kind of help you out with that, I don't know if you guys are aware of this or not. Just last month, the Stanford Center for Assessment, Learning, and Equity put out this a support guide for Ed TPA candidates. So if you go to the Ed TPA website, like just Google Ed TPA and bring it up, there is and you have to do a couple different clicks. Joanne, I can look and send you the link, and you can share it with all of you. But it's called Making Good Choices is the title of it, and it's a 19-page document that walks you through and tells you what you need to be doing in each step. And I've shared it with the university supervisors. I sent it out to all of them. It's a 19-page document, but so that they're able to answer your questions based on what this says as well. But you might want to go online yourself and find it and utilize it to help you through the process. But I will find the actual link, Joanne, and I'll just copy paste and send it to you, and then.
I did show this to them when it was given to me by Rhonda, gave it to me.
Okay.
And I don't remember, I was going to put it in the content area. Does anybody look?
Is it on the main page?
Yeah, I put it
Okay.
on the main page.
Okay.
So you all have it.
Okay.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful.
Remember where I put it. Thank you.
Okay, okay. And so in your packets of information, you will have kind of that explanation or walkthrough of what it is that you're going to be doing with the TPA. You do need to collect some student work samples. You do need, as part of the TPA, to keep a daily journal, and since you're going to be journaling with your university supervisor anyway, you can kind of create it in such a way that it could, you know, be that part of what you do for that could also be sent to the supervisor. And I think you all have directions on how to do the visitor's pass. If not, let me know. And then you will need to communicate with your university supervisor as to arranging a time for them to come observe you. They do not have to observe you teaching your TPA lesson, but they do have to come and observe you teaching some lesson of some kind, you know, something of some kind. So make sure that, you know, that you schedule it so that when they come, you'll be teaching and not the classroom mentor.
I was going to mention that if you're in secondary, make sure that when you are planning your lesson, if you happen to be in a classroom that is both teaches junior high and senior high courses, like a lot of the rural schools do, are not just a middle school or not just a high school teacher, make sure that you are teaching at the appropriate level for your university supervisor, and that your lesson for your TPA is done at the appropriate level. In other words, if you are doing junior high or middle school for your pre-student teaching, make sure that your TPA lesson and your observation is at the junior high level. That will be your documentation for the Board of Teaching that you have had a solid experience at the junior high level, if that is what you're supposed to be doing this time. Because when you student teach, then you would be at the senior high. And for some of you, that will be flipped around. And for some of you, if you're in a middle school, there is not an issue. But just keep that front and center. If you have any questions about that, don't hesitate to contact me, and I will make sure that we understand where you're supposed to be. And secondary, when you plan that unit, it just has to be in one particular class. It doesn't have to be the whole day. That helps you. I talked about when you get to the school. When you get your assignment today, Cheryl asked that you wait until about Friday before your mentor teacher will have your assignment also. You will be contacting your classroom teacher, and you will be introducing yourself to them. I would make sure that I called the school using the school telephone. Using the school telephone. And the reason I'm saying that is because you will want to talk personally to that teacher so they hear your voice, they know who you are, and also because your email, if you would email them, will probably go into their quarantine box and they will never know you emailed them. And I have trouble with that routinely because every so often they will change that, and even though we communicate daily, it will go into their quarantine box. So call them, ask when their prep time is, and then call them during their prep time and introduce yourself. And one of the conversations you might want to have then is, when I arrive at school, where should I park, and what door is unlocked for me to go into?
Okay. Also for hours that you will be at the school that you are placed in has, well, all schools have regular assigned hours for their teachers, that they need to be here from this time to this time. And so that's another thing you should find out is, what are the school expected hours? So say, for example, they want their teachers there by 7:30, and they must be on campus, on site, until 3:30. Well, then your hours are 7:30 to 3:30. If you happen to be placed in a school that doesn't start till 8:30, maybe their hours are 8 to 4. So you need to find out what the hours are for the school that you are assigned to. Okay, and now those are the hours that you keep. Okay, and then on your list, there are some optional things that you might do. Faye, what are those?
Sure. It should be in your packets that you receive, but you will have some requirements that Cheryl walked through with you. But there are other things that you would like to try to do and to get as many optional experiences as you can. For example, if they're having an IEP meeting or a staffing, a faculty meeting, a conference, all those are educational experiences that you would want to make sure that you get to. If they are having a study hall, or the students are working on a one-to-one, this would be a great time for you to do some tutoring. Is there a student that your teacher thinks needs some one-on-one help? Or do you see someone that was struggling when you were teaching find a way to do some one-on-one tutoring and see if you can help them with that. A classroom teacher is everything from a janitor to a counselor to a teacher to a mother. They wear a lot of hats. And so find out how many of those hats that you can wear yourself to relieve some of the stress from that classroom teacher during that week. So find things that you can do that are beyond what we have listed to help. Maybe it's getting some papers ready, maybe it's doing a bulletin board, maybe it's getting some materials ready for tomorrow. Find out what you can do to help. Make sure you include some technology into your lessons. And if there's anyone who needs some makeup work or has to stay after for detention, this might be areas that you could help with. Anything else that you want to?
Any questions? Yes.
For most of the fly schools and schools around here, our first Monday of spring break, they have a workshop. So do we go or do we do the Monday after? What do you prefer?
The pre-student teaching experience has to be 10 full student contact days. So you're right. Most of the fly schools will be attending a March 11th in service, which we were not aware of, and obviously we just took the SMSU spring break. So whoever made the SMSU calendar and assigned spring break that week, they wouldn't have even known to check that there would be a conflict for education students. So my suggestion would be to either go the Friday before or the Monday after, and try to get your five days done in that way. Okay. Yes.
What about for, like myself, I have class every day, so I have class Friday morning and Monday mornings. So for me, like that would just, and I have a fly school.
Do you have afternoons off?
Yes.
You might have to do 2 afternoons.
Okay, I could do Friday afternoons, but it would be 2 separate Fridays, because I have class Monday and Wednesday afternoon.
If any of you have situations like that, because we know that's going to happen. If you have some situations like that and you can't figure out how to make it work yourself, give us a call or stop in. We'll see what we can do, to try to help you out. Maybe you'll only be able to get 4 days done in March, and you might have to do 6 days in May. It's just we have to do 10 full days. Okay?
And I have talked with several principals that have invited you as pre-student teachers to the March 11th, so you may want to double check with that. This is going to be a very valuable workshop. They would love to have you there. So that would be something that you could do as a selected optional activity. It wouldn't count as your teacher contact days, but you can't underestimate the value that you may gain from that experience.
Yes.
My teacher knows that she will be gone because she's presenting at something in the cities for their school. Is it still okay for me to be in there with the substitute teacher?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. That'll be a great experience for you to see how a sub handles things. And is it an elementary classroom?
Yeah, there's 2 grades in the same classroom.
Okay, so you'll be put to good use that day by the sub, I can guarantee it. It'll be a great experience for you. Okay, any other questions? Yes?
Well, my whole situation's kind of a mess. I think I emailed you before, but one of my teachers is pregnant.
And you're the one in Lind?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you gotten that figured out yet?
Kind of, but she has me sporadically, all these different dates for
we can talk about that one separate.
Okay.
Yep. But good. It happens,
She doesn't want us to do it with the sub, so it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
You want to talk about
Oh, for those of you that need to have a background check done, some of the school districts do require background checks, and if your envelope says that you need a background check and you have not already done one for that particular school district, you need to take care of that like last Friday. Simply because it takes a little while to get them back. So while you're waiting to hear from your university supervisor, I would really, within the next day or two, take care of that. Some school districts require it, others do not. So it's the luck of the draw as to whether or not it's going to affect you. But I think Marcia's got that in the envelopes if you need it. And if you have any questions, just let us know. Does everybody know where we're located? Downstairs? Via? Okay. Okay. I guess we hand these out. All right.
Any other questions from anybody? Videotaping is always a question.
Yes.
Any advice for them about taping themselves and getting it online?
Well, I don't know
Online
how, I have no clue how to put it online, and I'll let you know how videotaping goes with that thing when I see it later. I'm a little nervous about it. But Dr. Bonstetter's a pro at it. Does that help?
And I think at the Academic Commons, they know how to get it from the camera to your...
Yeah, there are directions and stuff.
We do have some cameras that were just purchased also in the education department. If you need to use one, most of you have phones that will do the clip, have iPads, have whatever.
Okay.
They work too.
Yes, there was a question over here.
I was just going to ask if you would provide cameras or not.
You can check them out from Carol Basut in the education department. Okay?
Thank you.
And there's not enough for everybody, so you can't all have them at once, and it's probably a case